Good morning, students. Today we'll take up lesson 11, part 2, and the topics that we will cover today are cloning vectors, selectable markers, and the process of recombinant DNA technology. Now, about the learning objectives for the session: cloning vectors, selectable markers, processes of recombinant DNA technology. That means, after finishing this session, we will be able to get a better idea of all these terms and you will relate with all this in a better way. Now, about the cloning vectors. Basically, vectors are the agents which transfer a gene or a antigen from one body to another body. In DNA technology, the vectors are the agents or the media which transfer the gene from one cell to another cell. Basically, there are some vectors which are involved only in the transfer of genes from one cell to another cell, but there are some others which transfers the gene as well as they help in cloning of the gene. That means making a multiple copy of a gene. So those vectors which involved in generating the multiple copies of the gene are termed as the cloning vectors. Now we'll discuss about some examples for the vectors, which agents we can use for transferring the gene. The natural common vectors are the retroviruses, plasmids, bacteriophages, etc. While the artificial vectors, the most common examples are YAC and BAC. YAC is the yeast artificial chromosome and BAC is the bacterial artificial chromosome. Now there are some features which require to facilitate cloning in a vector, and the essential features are ORI, that is origin of replication, selectable markers, cloning site, and the small size. Now I will discuss a little about all these essential features of a cloning vector. ORI is origin of replication, so it is the point at which the replication starts. If I have given you a DNA segment and asked you to make a clone of that, and I have facilitated all the essential conditions, but if the ORI is missing in the DNA segment, the DNA segment is not able to replicate. So ORI is necessary for generating copies or for the origin of replication, as well as also controls the number of the copies. Now about the selectable markers. These are the genes which ensures the insertion of a desired gene. Now the cloning sites. These are also termed as the recognition sites or the restriction sites. And these cloning sites should be few in a vector to facilitate the process. More sites will complicate the process. Now about the small size. Smaller the size, easier will be replication, and it ensures the replication of all the genes at each step, as well as it is easier to get inserted into a host cell. The host cell will easily accept it if it is smaller in size. So these are some features which are necessary in a vector if it is involved in cloning. Now there is a image which is showing the plasmid of E. coli, which is used as a vector, and the name is PBR322. Here you are able to see towards the outer skirts. That means on the outer side all the labels are showing the restriction sites. The names are given of restriction enzymes which will work at particular site. So the name of the restriction enzyme and the restriction site will be same. Suppose there is EcoR1. That means this is the site at which EcoR1 enzyme will act and cut it open for the easy insertion or removal of a gene from this site only. You need to practice this figure because it is a very important question for board exam. Now come to the labels on the inner side of the circle. There is AMPR and TTR. These are the selectable markers. First one is the ampicillin resistive gene and second one is tetracycline resistive gene. Ampicillin and tetracycline both are the antibiotics which kill or inhibit the growth of the bacteria. And these genes are the resistive gene which will be used as a selectable marker which will ensure the insertion of a desired gene. Basically, it functions on the principle of insertional inactivation. That means if we insert a desired gene next to the selectable marker, then due to insertion of the gene, the selectable marker gene will get inactivated. As a result of that, it will not be able to express itself, and its inability to express itself will ensure the insertion of the desired gene, because after the gene get inserted, then only the selectable marker become inactive or unable to express itself. Now about the ORI. ORI is origin of replication and ROP is for proteins for replication or proteins of replication. Now about the selectable markers. There are two types of selectable markers, antibiotic resistive gene and beta galactosidase forming Z gene. That is the blue color of the colony. Let's discuss a little about this. As you have read about the Lycopodon, just recall that it has a set of genes, that is PIPOZYA. P is the promoter site, I is the regulatory gene, O is the operator gene, and ZYA are the genes which will express themselves to form the enzyme which will regulate the metabolism, that is the lactose metabolism, and that set of genes is termed as the structural genes. Now, when the gene is not inserted, the desired gene is not inserted, at that time the Z gene will form beta galactosidase enzyme, which in result, due to the reactions with a particular reactant, will create blue color, and so the bacterial colony will appear blue in color. But if we insert the desired gene and the plasmid or the set of gene, it has received the desired gene and we have cleaved the gene at the Z site. So here, when next to Z, if I insert the desired gene, due to insertional inactivation, now the Z gene will not able to express itself, and so it will not be able to form beta galactosidase enzyme, and so there will be no reaction which will create or which will form the blue color in the bacterial colony. So if the bacterial colony or the bacteria is unable to generate blue color, it will show that the gene has been inserted successfully. And if it will create the blue color, then it will show that the gene has not been inserted into the segment of DNA which has been provided. So that means here the Z gene or the beta galactosidase forming gene is acting as a selectable marker because it will ensure either the desired gene has been inserted or not. Now about the antibiotic resistive gene. It is a little bit complicated, but uh, we need to get back to the earlier slide, that is about the vector. Now here, as you are able to see that the plasmid belongs to E. coli, and the E. coli, first what we need to do is we'll take out the plasmid from the E. coli, and then we will, under the sterilized conditions, because there should not be any contaminated gene or contaminated agent which will get into the process and then destroy the or deteriorate the complete experiment. So what we need to do is we need to make the whole process contamination free. Under sterilized conditions, we will carry out this experiment. Now what we will do is we'll take out the vector from the bacterial cell, that is the plasmid, and here the image is shown. Now the plasmid, first what we will do is we will insert the selectable markers into it. For that, we'll take the plasmid and then we, in the suitable medium, we will incubate it. We'll keep it undisturbed with the genes. Those are ampicillin resistive gene and tetracycline resistive gene with the suitable restriction enzymes, and then we will incubate it. Keep it undisturbed. Now the process will take place. Now some of the vectors will get cleaved at BAM H1 site. So tetracycline resistive gene will get inserted there, and others at the PVU1 site. Now the ampicillin resistive gene will get inserted. Now some of the vectors will take up the DNA segments, that is the desired genes, those are the antibiotic resistive gene, and some vectors, they will just cut open and then they get ligated with their own section. That means without the insertion of the gene, they again get cleaved with their own section because of the sticky ends. Now what will happen next is we need to separate the transformants and the non-transformants. Transformants are those vectors which has taken up the antibiotic resistive gene, and non-transformants are which has not got the inserted desired genes. Now we'll take a glass slide or a petri plate and we will coat it with ampicillin, and then we will transfer the vectors on it. Now some of the vectors, they will get killed who has lost the property of ampicillin resistance, and those which has this property or the inserted gene, they will survive. That means there we will get only those vectors which has the inserted desired genes. Those are the selectable markers, that is ampicillin resistive gene and the tetracycline resistive genes. And those who are failed to insert these selectable markers, they will not able to survive there. Now we'll select the transformants only and then we'll carry on with the process. What we will do next is again we will incubate these vectors with the selectable markers with the desired gene, that genes which we want to insert into the vector, and then we want to transfer it to the host cell. Now what we will do is we will keep it or we will incubate it with the desired gene in a suitable medium, and after certain period of time with the restriction enzyme also, and after certain period of time either the desired gene will get inserted or not. Now we need to check it, either the desired gene has been inserted or not. For that we'll take a glass plate or a petri plate and coat it up with tetracycline, and now we'll transfer the vectors over it. Now those which has the inserted gene, their tetracycline resistance has been not able to express itself. They have lost this property, and so their growth will inhibit. While those which has the discarded the desired gene, their property will remain for tetracycline resistance, and they will keep on multiplying there. So now we'll select those who are unable to multiply, and those are termed as the recombinants, and the others are termed as the non-recombinants. Now what we will do next is we'll take up recombinants, those which has the desired gene and an activation of the tetracycline resistive gene. We get it inserted into the host cell and will carry on the process. So basically the selectable markers are necessary to ensure the insertion of the desired gene for the success of the experiment, as we need to ensure before carrying the experiment that either the desired gene is there or not, and that we can do with the help of the selectable markers only. Now we'll come to the process of recombinant DNA technology. As you are able to see, there is a bacteria and its DNA has been isolated, and then cloning of the designed gene has been done. The desired gene then has been inserted into the cell, and then we have cultured the cell and tissue, and then we have inserted into the plant, modified it, and then we get it breed, or we get its multiple copy, and we will get the plant with the desired genetic change. So all this experiment in which we have inserted the desired gene into a plant cell, and then we have developed the plants out of it and with the desired features, that complete process is termed as the recombinant DNA technology. That means we have undertaken genetic engineering to modify a plant and got a transgenic plant with the desired feature. We can do it with the animals also. Now about the process. The first process is isolation of DNA. DNA can be isolated from the cell by treating with enzymes, like if the cell is bacteria, then we will treat it with lysozyme to dissolve the cell wall and all, and fungus, then we'll use chitinase to dissolve the cell wall. If there is a plant cell, we'll use cellulase and pectinase, and if there is animal cell, we'll use lipase and proteases. So all these enzymes are specific for a particular cell to dissolve the cell wall and the cell membrane to get the DNA. Now the DNA is intertwined with histone proteins and RNA, so we treat it with proteases and RNases. Proteases are the enzymes which digest the proteins, and RNases are the enzymes which will digest the RNA and will got the DNA strand. Now we'll extract out the DNA by treating this solution with chilled ethyl alcohol, and we'll get the strands of DNA. This is the image which is showing how we'll get the DNA strands. Now the second step of the process is fragmentation of DNA. That means we'll cut the complete DNA segment into different genes so we can get the desired gene. So for that, we'll treat the DNA segment or the strand of DNA with restriction enzymes. Now the third is isolation of desired gene. The desired gene is separated by gel electrophoresis process, and in this process we'll take a gel plate of agar gel, and then we will coat or fit the plate, that is the electrophoresis plate, and we'll coat it up with the solution which contains the DNA segments, all the genes which has been already separated because of restriction enzymes, and then we will charge it the plate with that particular solution containing genes, and Then we'll apply the electric field, and will on the other side of the plate will put a positive charge electrode, as the DNA is negatively charged, and the agar gel is basically a semi solid matrix which will allow the movement of the DNA segments within it. Now when we will create the positive charge, now the negatively charged DNA strands or the genes will start moving towards the anode, and on the basis of the density and the size, the genes will get separated on the gel plate. Now the separated genes are stained by ethidium bromide. It is a dye which will provide the orange bright color to the genes, and we will see it by exposure to ultraviolet radiations, and we will get the genes as bright orange colored bands. Now we'll cut the desired gene from gel and extract it from the gel piece. First we'll cut the gel piece and then we will take it out and then separate the desired gene from the gel piece. That process is termed as elution. Now this is the process which is showing how we'll put the anode on the other side, and there is the DNA segment and the longer molecule, that we can say that the more density will get it towards the port from which we have fed it, and the lighter it is, it will move far apart, that means towards the another end. Now about the fourth step, that is amplification of the desired gene. The process is to make multiple copies of the desired DNA segment in vitro. It uses PCR technique. It is polymerase chain reaction. The process was designed by K. Mullis, and as the temperature is very high during the process, so the specific DNA polymerase, that is Taq DNA polymerase, is used, so it is able to help in polymerization, does not get denatured itself. Taq is what? It is Thermus aquaticus. Thermus aquaticus is basically the bacteria which resist very high temperature, around 90 to 100 degrees Celsius temperature. So that is the reason we'll take out the Taq DNA polymerase and use it in this process. The technique involves three main steps: denaturation, primer annealing, and extension of the primers. Here the image is showing of polymerase chain reaction. Denaturation is when you have taken out the desired DNA. Now you will denature it. You will provide the temperature of 90 degrees Celsius, and because of that the both strands get separated, and this is termed as denaturation. Now the second step is primer annealing. Primers are the small oligonucleotide sequence complementary to the desired gene's sequence of bases, and what we will do is we will make the two types of primers complementary to the two strands of the desired gene, as the gene can be of any length and the primers are only the oligonucleotide sequences. So when we insert the primers, at that time we need to cool off the temperature a little bit. That means we cool down the temperature by 70 to 72 degrees Celsius, and then we'll insert the primers or will project the primers. Primers will get attached to their desirable or the complementary sites on the desired gene, and this is termed as primer annealing. Now we'll add deoxyribonucleotides and the Taq DNA polymerase into the process, and with the help of these two the extension of the primer will take place, and that complete process is termed as extension. 30 cycles of this will lead to the formation of around 1 billion of desired gene. So this complete process is termed as the polymerase chain reaction. Now the fifth step is ligation of the gene with vector. For that, as we have got a sufficient number of copies of the desired gene by PCR technique, now we'll insert the desired gene with the suitable vector. But we need to remember that the desired gene and the vector both should be treated with the same restriction enzyme. Now we'll mix them and incubate with ligase under suitable conditions, and finally we will get the recombinant DNA as it is shown in the image also. Now the sixth step is transfer of recombinant DNA into host cell. Host cell is made competent to accept the foreign gene. If you will like or you want to insert a vector into a host cell, the first thing is the host cell will not accept it. It will try to discard it. So we need to make the host cell competent to receive the desired vector or the recombinant DNA. For that, we will make the cells competent, and if we are having the bacterial cell, there are two-step process. First, we'll treat it with calcium, high concentration of the calcium salts, and that will increase the permeability of the cell wall. As a result of that, the vector will pass through the cell wall. Then we will incubate or we will project the cell to temperature variant treatment. That means we will keep the cell on 0 degree Celsius, then on 42 degrees Celsius, and again on 0 degree Celsius. Then we'll giving that much variation of temperature to a cell. Its permeability will get disturbed, and the cell membrane will allow everything to pass through it. And this is the time when the vector which has passed the cell wall, now it will pass the cell membrane and get into the bacterial cell and modify it. Now if the cell that we want to modify by insertion of the desired gene or the vector containing the desired gene, will use the micro injections in it. The micro needles or micropipettes are there and will directly inject the desired gene into the nucleus of the animal cell. In plant cells, we use biolistics or gene gun. In gene gun, we use the bullet as the micro projectiles. We call it as micro projectiles, and these are the gold or tungsten microparticles which are coated with the desired gene. Now we bombard them with fast speed on the plant cell, and they directly get inserted into the plant cell nucleus. For all types of cells, we can use the disarmed pathogen as a vector. Disarmed pathogens are, suppose retrovirus we are using to transfer the gene, and it is having a harmful gene or the disease causing gene. We need to remove the disease causing gene before using it as a vector. This removal of the undesired gene or the harmful gene from the organism or from the part of the organism which we will use as a vector for transferring the desired gene. So that is termed as disarming of vector, and that pathogen will be termed as the disarmed pathogen. Now there is the image of gene gun and micro injections. The seventh step of the process is culturing the transgenic cells. The transgenic cells are the cells which has the recombinant DNA, and we culture it on suitable medium, and the cell multiplies and form clones. Basically, the equipment that will be used for the cloning of the desired cell is the bioreactor itself that I have discussed with you earlier. Now about the extraction of the desired product. The transgene expresses itself in the form of a protein under appropriate conditions, and the products can be extracted from the medium by employing suitable procedure. That means from the sampling ports we will take out the desired product from the bioreactors and will get the product due to the reactions has taken place by the recombinant DNA containing cells in the bioreactors. Now this is the image which shows the culture and extraction of the products, and there they have shown the bioreactors also. Now about the downstream processing. This is the last step in the process, and this has a series of processes, so we get a finished product out of the raw product that we have obtained from the bioreactor directly. The two processes are separation and purification. Separation is removal of the physical impurities, and purification is removal of the chemical impurities which are associated with the bioproduct which we have obtained from the bioreactors. And after this, if it is a edible product, will formulate it with preservatives, and if it is a drug, then we need to take the clinical trials before introducing it directly into the market. Here there is an image which is showing the bioreactor. This is the bioseparator. Now about a little bit about bioreactors. These are the huge vessels in which raw materials are biologically converted into biological products by microbes, plant cells, animal cells, or their enzymes. And the essential components of a bioreactors are agitator system, oxygen delivery system, a foam control system, sampling ports, pH control system, and temperature control system. These are the two images which are showing the bioreactors. Again, there are two bioreactors which are included in your syllabus, and the names are the simple stirred tank bioreactor and a sparged stirred tank bioreactor. Both images are very important for board examination, so you need to prepare both, and also you need to remember the names of the bioreactor. The question may come, make a bioreactor as well as tell the names of two types of commonly used bioreactors. So the two names are given here, and you need to practice the figures also. I think we have discussed the topic in an efficient way. Concept must be clear to you all now. Hope you have achieved the learning objectives for this session. Take care.